So first of all, thank you for sending the questions through Twitter. We received a bunch, and so from those I kind of picked at least 3 themes that seem to be important for the audience. Oh, thank you, Nick, for bothering to show up. Much appreciate that. Don't run for us. I mean, we would have waited. So 3 themes really seem to pop up. 802.11ax. Should we talk about AX? Yeah, man. AI. Should we talk about AI after AX? And also tools, wireless tools in general. How about that? Let's start with that kind of a thing, and then we'll go from there. Okay, first of all, guys, thank you. How have the presentations been? What do you guys think? Yes. So it's 2 factors, right? One is to deliver the right content and data. Second one is to be entertaining while you do it. So a lot of people can deliver the content, but to be entertaining at the same time and captivating. That's what these guys do for a living.
I had a urinal dilemma.
Would you like to? That's the first question. Would you like to describe it in more detail, or?
Okay, so I walk in, there are 11 urinals. Okay.
Oh, go on. As detailed as you want, or not. Okay, so AX. Let's talk about AX. When are we gonna see something? Let's talk about when first. Anybody want to take a stab at when? I see Tobias. You're the vendor, so can you give us as generic as an answer as possible without saying anything meaningful?
Okay. You need to think about that one, actually. I felt it coming, actually, this one. So AX is a special one. So as I can only speak from us as Aruba, as we will deliver soon. Under investigation. No, it's we will come with an AX AP. The only thing is that there were multiple chipsets on the market, right? I'm not sure how. Well, probably you are all depth in it. So the first chipset on the market was definitely none, probably none after all the changes that have been done there for the standard. So now the chipsets on the market, we guess, we hope, we have a very good feeling actually that will be, the chipset is also the right chipset. Maybe there will come new chipset, but at least the chipset will be able to meet the complete AX standard, which will probably be rectified, what is it? End of 2019, probably, as it looks right now. So still, it's a long way out, right? Everybody talks about AX. Still, there is no standard. But what we will do, we will come with a high-end AP, and that will be the first one. And then later on, we will see how it will be more further down the stream where you got more volumes AP. That does make a common sense answer or not?
Yeah, that's very good. And since I think you're the only vendor, anybody else want to talk about when AX kind of thing? To me, it's like
just blame me. So
I'm a vendor, but I don't know anything about AX except that isn't it like there's no clients available, so there's absolutely no use to have AX anyway, and we should look at like how quickly different clients, for example, AC clients became big, and for that we should look at like iPhone, for example. And the big question, I guess, is when will iPhone be, AX compatible? Because that's when we would assume the other devices to have skyrocketed as well.
I just wanted to say one thing that Samuel Clements raised on one of the recent webinars, which was quite interesting, that the next generation of AX access points, even if they are pre-ratification, they will have faster silicon in them.
CPU and RAM,
yeah. So even just by it being a younger access point, you may find that there may be some performance benefits, but is that due to AX? Maybe not.
Yeah, that's right. And especially in scenarios where you're overloading the APs heavily, like very high density stuff like that, you want the latest, like Keith said, you want the latest silicon, in your gadgets, in your tools, what have you. So that's for the when. So let's wait for clients. Let's wait for APs. Maybe has anybody jumped into the AX bandwagon already? Anybody placed orders?
I was going to give you an answer on your when. when you're going to upgrade anyway. If you have G and you're going to upgrade and there's an AX in the vendor you like, why not go to AX? If you're at Wave 2 AC, I see absolutely no reason to go to AX. So I don't think it's when do you make the change in technology. It's when are you going to upgrade your current infrastructure to the next rev. I always tell my customers, go to the best next rev you have today. Now, as a vendor, I like that Aruba's, I don't know if this is going to hold true for AX, but Kerti said before, you will always charge the same for Wave 2 as Wave 1, and Wave 1 is N. There's no penalty, as long as there's no penalty to go to the current technology, why would you not buy AX today?
Exactly, unless it is made on a subpar, from subpar components for one reason or the other.
From my point of view, the when is not when it's going to be out in the market from the manufacturers, but when is it going to be used entirely in a deployment. Yes, we had AC APs out there, and we had no AC clients, and we had end clients having a better experience because of better chipset, better technology. But I don't see AX greenfield per se, like in not less than 5 years. That's
for sure no. And people say like at least we should see 30-50% of clients AX before we really start seeing the benefits from OFDMA and BSS coloring and things like that.
Yeah, and that's exactly the reason why you want to start with a high-end AP, right? So exactly what Keith and Nick is mentioning is that's the specific, right? That's where you have the high CPU, the more memory, and that's where you gain the true value in high-density environments in these very niche kind of environments. That's where you want to gain this value.
All right, so that's when for AX. Let's say 3 years from now, when we're all deploying AX, everything is la-di-da-di, happy path, and we also have clients. How is our deployment methodology is going to change, or what is going to be impacted, like the density or how we do things? Aren't we still looking at requirements and fulfilling the requirements? And what happens in between? What changes?
Nothing.
That's what I figured you'd answer.
You have requirements of your client needs, and you have capabilities of your APs, and you apply the APs and the infrastructure to meet the requirements. I don't see anything changing. One thing I do see that might help augment things is and I hate to use terms, but you can have RUs, little small resource units in AX, and you can have them transmit at different transmit powers, which will allow us to do things like I could dedicate a couple RUs to keep a mesh backhaul up full time. And so it we might be able to have more mesh as a valuable alternative with AX than we do today. Right now you put in mesh and every mesh hop degrades 50% throughput. So there's a penalty. We might not have that penalty with AX, we'll have to see. But the ability to have different transmit powers per RU group would allow me to have some fringe devices that I can punch extra signal to, and yet the close ones are there. So the question of high transmit power, low transmit power becomes the system sets the transmit power for what it needs for each one. And I think that's a very valuable thing.
That's a pretty big deal. And what about like voice has always been difficult, especially high density voice. Doesn't AX and RU's OFDMA, I'm expecting great things from that as long as you have enough clients, right?
Yeah, it might be able to allow voice clients to stay on an AP longer, so they don't have to roam, because the roaming is what they hate. And they take, 64K, they don't need a whole lot of throughput, but they need it stable, and we might be able to do that with RUs.
So actually, I think if you think about it, I don't think there will be so much change. Actually, I think it will be much more. Because if the research units, for example, where Keith is talking about is very specifically mentioned also for IoT, right? So you get, instead of doing now you saw the measurements from Keith just for clients. Imagine you have to do this for separate research unit for X amount of more devices that are coming onto your network. So I think the change is you will probably do more and more specific.
Yeah, I think
Mackenzie is awake. Thanks, man.
I woke him up.
Yeah, he woke me up. I think in terms of the process, when you think about the design process, nothing's going to change. We've still got to get the requirements, go through a design process. It's got to be installed. We've got to validate it.
You're still going to use Ekahau.
So use an Ekahau. But I think what will change is there's going to be, as is with all new technologies, an increase in the knowledge we need to know as designers and professionals, because the requirements are still the same, but there's going to be a whole load of new technology we need to learn. We've talked about resource units having different power levels. Well, what effect does that have on our design? Do you design to the maximum power, the minimum power? You've got to understand what effect designing to a particular power level is going to have upon your design.
You put your protocol analyzer?
Yeah, where are you going to put your protocol analyzer? Are you going to be able to see all the packets? I think the troubleshooting and analysis part is going to become harder. I think we're going to rely upon capturing from APs a lot more than a standalone analyzer. So I think there's going to be a whole load. There's going to be a steep learning curve which we need to go through. Keith talked about knowing our protocol, which is incredibly important. There's going to be a whole load of more protocol we need to learn. So, we really need. This industry does need experts. It needs people who understand the protocol. And I think the thing that's going to change is we've got a lot of learning to do.
Yeah, and what's going to change is your hourly rate, because the protocol, goes more complex. Your hourly rate will go up, right?
Hourly rate goes up.
Yeah. His hourly rate is now like 1,500 per hour, so that's pounds.
That's right. Yeah.
So
cheap at
up
that
to
cost.
2K. Yeah. Okay, so that's actually fascinating, and I agree that the ultimate device for packet capture, I guess, just has to be an AP. Then moving forward, you can do bits and pieces with other techs. But so should we talk about 6 gigahertz? Since we're talking about this. So there was just some, regulatory bodies just ratified, and so that's going to happen. So who knows something about 6 gigahertz? Very good. Me neither. So all I know is there's like 5 gigahertz is full. It's being utilized, and not everywhere, but in a lot of places we're running out of spectrum. Now FCC has agreed to give us I don't know, a full 1,000 megahertz, pretty much, give or take, even more is it, of spectrum more sometime in the future. And there's a really good presentation by Chuck Lukaszewski about that at the CWNP conference. I think they're gonna release those only after December. So the point being, come to Keith's conference in Phoenix in February, and you will see a better version of Chuck's presentation there. But there's a lot of new spectrum out there which will be released in 3 years or something like that, or available in devices in 2 to 3 years. What are your guys' thoughts on 6 gigahertz?
Well, it's great. A lot more spectrum, more channels. My hope is that we're going to see it as a fresh piece of spectrum. So, for example, if AX is a current technology, it will only be able to support AX and not have to be backwards compatible. So what I don't want to see is the IEEE defining B, G, N to operate in that frequency spectrum, because one of the biggest issues we have is getting access to the medium because of the backwards compatibility contention. So I just hope that it is a fresh start and early supports the latest technologies. That is a wish.
Greenfield spectrum. How about that?
The other is, I think some of the problems we have with our current use of 22 channels and 5 gig is because clients have a hard time. They have to go roam. I mean, the whole KVR, how we're trying to help clients make better decisions. Like you, I think in 6 gig, the IEEE needs to come up with a new solution, because there's no way we have time to scan all of that gig.
That's true. So here's a question, though, and coming back to Tobias and the IoT thing, because we're getting a lot more spectrum, we're getting AX, but how much more data can humans consume? I mean, there's only so much resolution we need on a display. There's only so many devices we can use at the freaking same time. Aren't we already at the peak of like how much humans can consume, or are we gonna walk with VR glasses that will be like 10K, a couple of years from now? So I totally buy the IoT increases, data traffic thing, but how much more can we freaking consume, man?
So that depends on the human, I think. But I think actually it's a little bit of a strange thing. So if you look at the machine learning where we talked about, actually the amount of data you need to be right is huge, is massive. The only thing is if that is automated for you and it's displayed in a way that you can understand, then it makes sense, right? So that's always the issue. So the amount of data you need will be huge for anything you want to do in analytics, in security, in Wi-Fi or whatever kind of marketing kind of data. So you need a lot of data. The only thing is how it will be displayed and how it will be, how can you consume the data for you? But the amount of data you need in order to be right for machine learning is massive. And actually, I think we're just there. We are not even. We're only consuming a couple of parameters, right?
But doesn't a lot of the AI ML data go non-Wi-Fi, right? It happens behind the scenes and between data centers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to say is that we need to consume it, but we need to do something smart with it. I think if you look at most network management system, I think even that is not everybody is understanding completely what all the graphs and all the outcome will mean, right? So I think that's something we need to be smarter in and how can we display that data into more meaningful data? I think the worst thing you can do actually with machine learning is getting a lot of data and not able to make actionable items out of the data. I think that's the worst thing you can do. Is just if you're just collecting the data and you're not able to turn actions into the data, it will be useless. And you just pay a lot of money to storage, which is also good for us actually, but that is...
Yeah, and the other alternative is alarm fatigue, right? So you do so much with the data that you get alerted all the time about events that are irrelevant. Question to the audience and then to the panel: does anyone actually feel like they do to a significant degree utilize AI-based Wi-Fi or network optimization solutions? And if so, could you name a scenario where it has helped you? Dobby has shared some today already, but anybody? Anybody use NyanAnswer? No? Anybody use Arubas or Cisco's or Ruckus's or AirWave's system? Wow. So same question to the panelists.
Except obvious.
Let's say Keith or Peter or Fernay. Have you encountered customers, Fernay, that have done significant things to their networks with AI, ML, solved problems more quickly?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you for your contribution, sir.
So
that concludes the show. Thank you.
So I've got, I'm not going to talk about any customer names, but I have had a little bit of experience with AI, and I think it's a very powerful tool which can do a lot of good things, but it's with great power comes great responsibility. And how we...
Peter Mackenzie's cliche of the day.
Yeah, it's my cliche of the day. But how we interpret what the results is also important as well. I think we've done a little bit of work with NyanAnswer and also a bit of work with Splunk and doing there's some AI models with inside Splunk for those of you that know that. And we've got one customer who has a wireless WIPS solution, and they have lots of WIPS solutions generate lots and lots of alarms, security alarms. And one of the issues is there's a lot of false positives in there. So what we wanted to do was to take all those alarms in, put them into a Splunk system, and we narrowed it down to, through some analytics, getting what we call notable events, top events. And then of those top events, we can look at them and we report sometimes to the security team that there's been an event they want to be notified on. So what we thought was, could we automate it? Could we get a machine to look at the alerts and work out if it's automated or not? and we, yeah, am I boring?
Sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
See, AI, it's boring. Nobody wants to know about it. So what we tried to do was distill that down to basically every time we notify a security team, we told the Splunk system we were notifying them and got it to learn our behaviour. So it's learning human behaviour. And then over the course of 6 months, we looked at which events it would have notified and which ones we actually did. And do you know what was really scary? It was spot on every month.
Wow.
So I'm a fan of AI, but I'm a little bit wary about the fact that I think it can be used in the wrong ways as well.
So since you've worked with, and just because I know NyanAnswer, the name only, can you name a scenario where it really helps, or a couple of problems that NyanAnswer spots before your admins do, for example, and how it helps resolve those, identify, track down, and resolve those problems?
I think the power of NyanAnswer and a lot of these is in the big data. So NyanAnswer, all the sort of analytics it takes from your network are sent into the cloud in an anonymous format, and it compares you with other customers which are similar to yourself. And I think that's the power of being able to not just look at your own analytics, but be compared with other organizations, baselining. And so it can see that in your environment, you know, 5 other places applied its latest patch to the Wi-Fi controller, and their performance actually went down. So there's an advisory not to do it, or if you do upgrade, the performance will actually go up. And I think being able to correlate multiple customers is something which is very powerful.
I've had some experience with AI solutions, and I think what they try to do is take an expert, whether it be Seven Signal or NyanAnswer or Rasa before they got picked up by Aruba, and say, what would an expert do in this situation? And then start to codify it. In the beginning, I thought, oh, they're just taking my job away, and they just, you know, I'll take their money to talk to them. But the net result is somebody has to look at the data that comes out of the packet capture, figure out what's wrong, and they can make that way smarter. What I've seen lately is they can actually do better than I could do myself, because they can see a wider picture. I can only see my customer slices. I'm missing the fact, and one of the things you mentioned with NyanAnswer is, oh, I say, do this patch, fix this thing, and they know that somebody did it over there 2 weeks ago and it was a good thing or a bad thing. Or that what's the standard in our industry. I see my view, you see your view, and if we can get an industry-wide one, I think it can help all of us.
Well, and that's a pretty big statement, because like you said, a lot of people could see this as a job security thing, but it comes back to, you know, there's not enough of you guys to begin with, and anything that helps to replicate Peter and Keith, you know, is probably a good thing. I'm not talking about personality, just your skill set.
So even though I haven't,
you know, I love you
collision
guys.
detection.
Collision, yeah. Now we have collision avoidance. So one of the things that I like about the new software releases is that you can actually go back in time. And what I like about that, I started my career on a help desk. And today, if you call a help desk...
You want to go back in time to the help desk?
if I, as a user, call the help desk and I say I'm having an issue with the Wi-Fi, what do? They log a ticket, right? And then 3 hours, 4 hours later, you send an engineer to go on site to fix the problem. Guess what? Problem is there. It solved itself. So what do? You close the ticket. Was the problem resolved? No. And then 5 days later, same problem again. Same user calling, say, I have a problem. So you log a ticket. Same thing going over and over again. And with the latest software, and you can actually take that moment in time and you go back and see what happened, what were the context around it, what was the streaming telemetry, what's the information and the data from that particular moment, and you can actually take an action from that. And I think that is something that we all should be very happy with it, because I think it makes our life a lot easier. So, yeah.
It really does. This is good. Nick, anything on the AI ML? We deal with Ekahau customers, but do you kind of start to see, for example, does there need to be integration points between our tools and AI-based tools at some point, or are our customers talking about it? How much?
To be honest, I've had very little exposure to the machine learning and AI so far. And no, none of the Ekahau customers that I've spoken with have brought it up in conversations so far. But I think, as with all of these things, I think the real power of AI and machine learning is yet to be understood. Yeah. But I think the more industries that you can apply machine learning to, that exposes insights that we could not have foreseen, there will be positive. So yeah. So basicly, no, I don't have any comment on machine learning or AI. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
What about? So I think even if you took Ekahau, right, and I know it is like a nice word, like an on-premise tool. So what if you have all these data in the cloud? So you do your site surveys for your organizations, you can anonymize that data, but remember that I was talking about the types of kind of devices? You can do that if you share that data, right, between vendors, or if you build an API, you can start to do smart things. But you can also start to see, okay, is this network that I designed, is it operating as I initially planned to? Right? That's data that you can start using if you have Ekahau's data, for example, in a cloud that can be shared with others.
Why are you talking about our roadmap, man? or not? It may or may not happen.
Yeah, just one data point. When you had asked Nick something, I have an answer for that.
Doctor?
There are analytic type companies, don't display anything, that would love to have integration with Ekahau. So I take a survey of your facility and it knows where the coverage patterns are and then integrates that back in dynamically into a client's complaint and says, oh, they're on this AP, I can see which one they're associated to, but they shouldn't be on that AP. And right now I have to show up to, and maybe I catch it. If they have big data that's tracking that simultaneously, you could say, whoa, wait, how come these clients are always on the wrong AP? What's the reason? And there is a right AP at every location. When we design it, we say, we want this AP to cut over here. And what if 80% of the clients aren't on the one we want them on? And so it's not in Ekahau, it's not in the analytics, but some integration could help.
Yeah.
And in addition, even though I haven't had that exposure to solve problems using AI, with customers, what we've seen is that when they're always asking, how can I identify these issues quick? You start sending proposals like this company does that, NyanAnswer does this, NetBees, and there's others, and they always just try to stay away from more stuff to be added to the network because of budget, because of the devices they have to add, because they have to learn something new, because they have integrated or configuration. And seems to me that they all kind of want something integrated with what they already have without having to pay more licensing or more money for it. But of course, who's going to pay?
Yeah, and the reality is you never have to pay anything extra for these additional features, right? From any of us vendors, Ekahau included. That wasn't a real statement. It was sarcasm, by the way. So do not take me to court when we jack up our pricing by 300% next year, starting January 1st. You're laughing now. Anyhow, so this kind of started leading into the tools discussion, and just so that some Ekahau, since the open reality and this day is by us in cooperation. Just a couple of things about Ekahau that I may have forgotten to mention. First of all, Tobias, you have something to tell about Aruba and Ekahau.
Yeah. So yesterday we made an integration. Been asked for the last 10 years, I think, actually. As we made an integration between AirWave and Ekahau. So now you can upload your floor plans directly into AirWave integration. That's live since yesterday. Actually, it's a free upgrade. Actually, probably if you have a sport contract, but
Exactly, free upgrades for all. And just to be clear and fair with Cisco guys, so Cisco has similar functionality as well with the Prime.
they already had it for the last 10 years. Actually, that was.
But that's so the use case is in both cases that you design the network with ESS, and then instead of having to commission all the maps and all the APs and everything for the second time in AirWave or Prime, you click a button and essentially get that data from ESS to Prime or AirWave. And thank you, Aruba, for it. It was another great project with you guys. The BLE integration was the previous, and it's good to work with. Like, we are so fortunate to be working with Cisco and Aruba very, very closely. And when I go to San Jose, they don't kick me out within the first 5 minutes from their offices. So it's really, really essential for us tool vendors to do that, and there's all kinds of integrations, that. So that's one thing. Also last week, or no, it wasn't last week, CWNP, a couple of weeks ago, something like that. So at the conference, we also talked about, briefly, Joel spilled the beans on packet capture for Sidekick, which was like a year ago at the CWNP conference. People were like, yeah, Sidekick is great, but I'm a wireless expert. It needs to do packet capture. So now it does packet capture. It's on beta. And if you want to use that, email mikko@ekahau.com. That's mikko@ekahau.com. Dude, I gotcha this time. He's showing thumbs up as far as I can see from the background.
Another finger. Different finger.
So he was like, yeah, man. Not the index either? No, okay. So those are a couple of things that you guys probably should know. And as said, those of you that have sidekicks, seriously, same thing. Email jerry@ekahau.com if you have a sidekick and if you want to test the new stuff and if you don't work for IBWave or Air Magnet or are close relatives with those guys. So we need beta testers for all of the upcoming products, and we're happy to talk about that as long as you're not going to spill the beans. And we don't know that. Maybe you will. Anyway, so the tools discussion. There was a good question on Twitter. What tools do you have in your bag? And I know this is Keith's favorite subject, but let's start quickly from, for example, Ferney, and then people can add or subtract from Ferney's portfolio. And this is not like, you have all the tools, but which ones would you use as a wireless engineer weekly?
Well, being Mr. Parsons' disciple, I pretty much adopted his toolkit, and most of them he gave him to me. But like, Sidekick is one of the things that I use all the time, not because you're here, because this is an Ekahau sponsor event, but like I'm gonna take a picture. But like the spectrum analyzer is great now. Not walking around with NICs and USBs and cables hanging around.
You don't like walking around with NIC?
No, not much.
Yeah.
No.
I like the guys. I genuinely do.
So it's made our job easier, and the fact that I have everything in one device, just one cable, that's been great. I use the Adrians Tools. Anything, of course, you have to have a Mac for that. People, get frustrated and say, why isn't there for Mac? But for Windows, like we have it in Mac, but it helps a lot. Well, then if you don't have a Mac, get a Mac. That's another tool that you have to have. It makes our life easier. And of course, I use the NetScout, the AirCheck G2. Those are like basic tools that you use constantly all the time. And of course, the NanoPi, that is another project that has been contributed heavily by Jerry Ola from Ekahau, is another device that we can use for different purposes.
Yeah, that sucker works for us, and then he builds his own tools and starts selling them as a side business that compete with ours. No, they don't.
Actually, he gives them away for free.
Oh yeah, that's even better for us, isn't it? So guys, we'll be out of business by December 20th. So buy stuff while you can. Thanks, Jerry.
I think there's three main tools I use. I would say three main ones would be obviously site survey software, Ekahau, some sort of protocol analyzer, and some sort of spectrum analysis.
Which ones do you use for protocol and spectrum?
So with protocol analysis, I'm always use OmniPeak. It's my favorite tool. Spectrum analysis, I actually change which tool I use depending on what I'm doing. I know that sounds a bit geeky. I've got literally every spectrum analyzer that's been made for Wi-Fi.
Don't tell me you have like a Rohde and Schwarz somewhere.
I do actually, yeah.
Of course you have a Rohde
But
and
Schwarz. I used to always use the Cognio card. It was my favourite spectrum analyzer. For those of you that remember, it was a PCMCA card. The problem is PCMCA cards, finding a laptop that it fits in now is much harder. So I have been known still to carry my old laptop around with a card bus adapter to PCMCI and use that. But obviously the Sidekick has come along now, and the Sidekick does have a similar resolution. The functionality is getting better all the time as well with that. So I would say they're my two main spectrum analyzers that I use. And so they're my three main tools. So for consultancy would be obviously be able to do protocol analysis, be able to do a survey, and be able to take the spectrum. Three things that go along with that, I guess. Tools like I also have a laser measure in my bag for getting accurate measurements, so you can scale floor plans. Absolutely essential, being able to and take a long measurement. And I always carry around something to measure wall attenuation measurements with as well. So often a pocket AP that I can run off a battery, and then some way of measuring signal strength both sides of a wall, varying methods, but often the NetScout G2 is what I would use. So they're what's always in my bag.
Yes, everything they said. No.
And a Segway.
And a Segway, of course. You might not get permission from your boss to buy a Segway, but it had an ROI of 5 days. If you went to your boss and said, I want to spend 5,000 pounds on a Segway, but if you can recoup your money in a week, most bosses will go for that. So I agree. AirCheck G2, first thing I pull out because it's fast. It does really good scanning. Its packet analysis is useless. But for what it does, it's really fast and really good. You need something to do site surveys with, and I use Ekahau ESS, something to do design with, and you note I put those are two separate functions. One is doing a design beforehand, one is doing a survey afterward. You need both of those. I like using a Mac because it has tools that allow me to get answers really, really fast. Unlike, I've tried OmniPeak for years trying to learn to like it. I pay maintenance on it, so I have one, but I use Wi-Fi Analyzer because for me it's faster and I'm not as smart as Peter.
And by the way, speaking of Peter and Adrian, thank you. These guys have been co-developing. Actually, Adrian is writing a lot of Ekahau's packet capture for Sidekick, and Peter has been consulting since day zero on like telling me what is packet capture and you know who actually does it and that kind of stuff. So thank you. Yeah. What's a packet first of all?
I was quite excited actually when I first got a packet capture from the Sidekick. Because I thought when Ekahau first launched it, it's like this new child they had, and it took its first steps. But then when it finally could packet capture it, it spoke its first words. So that was quite exciting to me.
And the beauty of Sidekick is that we will be adding intelligence inside Sidekick so that it does not just packet capture as you command it on a set of channels, but there will be more intelligence with the packet capture later on that we've been specifying.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff. Come on.
Stephen Heinzius, would you like to contribute?
So I just like my Mac, and like you say, Adrians Tools. I use them everywhere, and I know I'm not on Wi-Fi Explorer Pro. I know that. I'm a cheap Dutch guy. I don't want to pay anything. And I paid 25 quid once, and I will not do it again. So that's why I'm still on the old one, and it does everything that I want. And I absolutely love the Sidekick and the insights that it gives me. As you've noticed, I like simplicity, and I like explaining something in a simple way to other people. And I can do that with just those two tools. So, yeah.
Does PowerPoint count?
Yeah, that or Microsoft Paint, because both can paint the map green pretty quickly, right?
So actually, I don't. All the tools being used are being used. So actually, I'm a big fan of communities actually, and UC knows I'm a big fan of collaborating people together. And to be honest, besides all the tools that you probably all use every day and to do your troubleshooting or do your site surveys, I think we need to figure out a way where we can elaborate more from each other, right? And not doing the same things over and over again and trying to figure out the same problem. So I think community would be my biggest tool actually that we can use.
Wow, that's a very good answer. And
I thought a long time about it.
yeah, you had a long time to think. And Twitter is a good Wi-Fi tool. Can we quote Dobias and say community or Twitter is a good Wi-Fi tool, because it really is. Dr. Turner, well, this is going to be a surprise. What do you have in your bag, man? I showed it already earlier today. You saw that, right? You had dongles.
Oh yes. The USB hub but that's kind of old hat now. But that's the idea of taking a USB hub and cracking it open and changing the ports that come out of it. So that was a spider USB, an octopus hub, but whatever. You've used up all of the good tools that I was going to jump on and say. So I mean, I guess
say something like really disturbing or like, yeah, I use Air Magnet on a daily basis.
Well, no, I think the only genuine tool I can throw into the mix here would be FileMaker and Access for sometimes when you need to manage large chunks of data that maybe, Word and trying to use macros to manipulate the data is painful. So yeah, database management, database tools are out there and they can assist you and automate a lot of that data manipulation.
And you also use, you know how to use Ecohouse custom reporting very well as a tool, and also a lot of people use scripting as a Wi-Fi tool in a sense to help commission APs and get the projects done more quickly and help with the entire like Wi-Fi deployment workflow and stuff like that. But that's a whole different topic that we need to have Jake Snyder or Blake Croney next year to talk about. Audience, anybody have any comments here? Any other tools that you might be using or yes, sir, and speak loudly, please.
I have my golden clients, my favourite NICs.
Golden clients.
Ones that I know work.
Nice.
I know how fast they go. I know how they behave.
How do you utilize those golden clients? For what purpose?
Usually client troubleshooting. So I've got a problem with the client, inform the way it should. I can substitute my golden USB adapter or whatever client is in place. Gives me a 50-50.
So you use comparison, like this client I know that works, here's the problematic client, compare.
Or I know it's a second, or I know it's a compatibility issue with the API.
Cool. Yes, sir.
I know Keith said it before as well, but your own lab. Every
Yeah.
wireless engineer should have a little lab set up at home where if they've seen something when they're out and about and they've not quite solved it, the hours where my wife's probably expecting me to come to bed and I'm still busy downstairs trying to figure something out. But that's where you really start to learn and get the opportunity to really dig into some of the things that are discussed at meetings like this.
That's true. And speaking of home lab, in my man cave, I also have a cape, which helps me. But cape sensors are there. So I'm not Batman, okay? So not even Deadpool. But cape sensors actually and the problems that you see arise and reasons behind them and stuff like that, and you can start to learn like when for example maybe LinkedIn does their maintenance updates that they don't talk about and stuff like that. It's also an interesting tool to me to understand the monitoring side and the constant measurement side of the equation. Anybody else? Yes, Petri. Actually, for you, I can give a mic.
Wireshark wasn't mentioned.
Yeah. True. Wireshark, and of course other packet capture or packet analyzers. And speaking of packet analyzers, so here's coming back. Wow, I'm going full circle. How much time do I have? Like -3 minutes. Oh, sorry about that. So circling back to the beginning, where we need to separate the expert work from the basic work. In some cases, to kind of engage the non-CWNEs to help us out with some of the tasks. I have Wireshark on my computer as well, and I have handed out the Ekahau capture application, which is basically a button and optionally choose channels.
So Stephen needs to run really for his flight. So bye-bye, Stephen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. So I have Wireshark also on my PC, and then I can just give somebody a Sidekick and click the button, capture the packets, and take a look at that. But we are.
So you don't capture in Cape?
I do that too. Yes, doctors. The main event. That's why most of you stayed. Thank you for that. Go ahead.
I just want to say massive thanks again for all the speakers. If you give everyone a round of applause, I really